Hey everybody, when I say I'm going live at 11 o'clock, I mean literally live at 11 o'clock. Hi there from the Driving Sports Studio in Bellevue, Washington. Thanks for joining. We're here, we're live, literally live. I'm sitting here talking to you right now. This is your opportunity also to talk back to me. So what we're going to talk today about is the new Honda Civic. The new Honda Civic was announced about 48 hours ago or so. I was busy yesterday, so I couldn't do a live stream, but I am here today to do a live stream because this is big news. The Honda Civic it's the bread for your butter. I mean, it's the meat for your potatoes. It is a mainstream car that sells a ton of units. Whether you're excited by the Civic or not, this is an important car. It's like the Camry, but smaller. So if you're here, go ahead and say hey over in the chat so that we can see that I have anybody listening. Also tell me, how's my audio working out here? Can you hear me okay? Because in the live thing, we don't get a lot of, practice because you go live and then you're live, and here we are. So give me a shout out, say hey in the comments if you're around. And I'm going to start this off with a video from Honda that introduces the car. It's a very short video. It's like 2 minutes, but I think it'll get us. Thank you, Devin, for telling me that the audio is good. I appreciate that. And also, Dimitri, I see that you had a question about whether or not they have revealed the MSRP. No, they have not. So we're not talking pricing today. However, they're all, oh, you actually think the audio is a touch high. I always think that I'm a little low on that. Here, let me just turn that down just a notch or two. I think I cranked everything up because we were a little quiet last time. Anyway, so I'm going to kick this off with a short video, and then we'll come back and talk about the car. The video is like 2 minutes long. It has basically Honda talking about all the fabulousness that is the Honda Civic, but it'll get us all on the same page here. So I think it's a good introduction. So let's go ahead and kick that off. Look at that, lights. I always like to do that. By the way, flash warning.
The 11th generation Civic has been developed with an emphasis on visual feedback that the driver can get from the vehicle. We secured a wide viewing angle that enables the driver to see beyond a curve in the road. We established a standard for horizontal visibility so the driver can accurately feel the vehicle position and make adjustments to eliminate any distractions that interfere with the driver's view of the road ahead, such as unevenness and reflection in the instrument panel, which creates visual noise. Through this concept, the vehicle offers clearer visibility, which ensures a satisfying driving experience. The landing spot of the A-pillars was made 50 millimeters closer to the occupants. The front fenders were lowered by 25 millimeters, and the mounting location for the door mirrors was changed. Inside the cabin, we clarified the standard for horizontal visibility and applied visual noise-reducing designs.
To design a flat and clean instrument panel, we eliminated unnecessary cut lines and paid attention to how it looks in every detail.
I have some thoughts about that interior. We'll get to that in a second.
For example, we gave consideration to the reflection of the windows, the shadow cast inside the cabin, and even how these issues help realize a visually noiseless design. One thing that stands out is the design that houses the air outlets. Conventional outlets had the sense of a standalone presence with a large opening. In the morning sun, it stands out quite a lot as visual noise. With the distinctive design of metal honeycomb running parallel to the instrument panel, we hid the existence of the air outlets and realized a visually noiseless and highly sophisticated space. Yet the beautiful appearance is not everything. We also pursued an interface which enables the user to grasp necessary information immediately. The meters and center display were positioned on the upper part of the instrument panel so that the driver can obtain needed driving information with limited eye movement. The switches for the air conditioning unit and door windows were positioned while paying attention to how the driver will move, so that intuitive operation is possible with minimal movement. In other words, we minimize driver distractions. Designing a visually noiseless frame and surfacing means making people feel comfortable and refreshed. And this theme evolved from our human-centered approach. This is something we pursued in every inch of this vehicle.
Okay, so that was the introduction video that they did. That honeycomb design, they say that it's like visually less distracting, but I don't know how metallic honeycomb that's like constantly streamed across the whole console is going to be less distracting than a couple of blacked out vents. I don't get that. It seems like somebody had a good idea and then they needed to figure out justification for it, and they came up with that, and they're like, yeah, let's go with that. What do you think of the of that grill? Let me pull that up here again. I got a shot right here.
Parallel to the instrument panel.
Turn off the volume there. That seems, I don't know, it seems fussy to me. Also, there's no other honeycomb anywhere else in this design, so it seems like it's a design element that was pulled out of left field. It has no cohesion to the overall design to me. There's no yin to this yang. I don't know, am I overthinking this one? Let me know what you think. I do like the interior is way nicer overall than the previous interior, though. I mean, they've definitely upped the game on this thing. And I also like that steering wheel. Let's see if I can get to the steering wheel here. The steering wheel right there, yeah. So my favorite type of steering wheel is one with the least amount of obtrusive buttons on it. So Subaru, I'm calling you out on this. Quit adding things to the inside of the steering wheel. I mean, they have SI drive, they have, like, if you have a seat warmer, it's on there too. I'm sorry, not seat warmer, but if you have a steering wheel warmer, it's on there too. This one, I love the streamlined nature of this. They got everything just kind of compact into small spaces. You don't need massive buttons on a steering wheel, and that leather looks fantastic. Okay, so the big notes on this thing is that they've definitely moved it kind of, the whole industry is moving up market, and they've definitely done that with this. And the fact that they even offer a digital gauge cluster now on I believe it's the Touring model. So that is a big deal. Also, we did confirm with Honda right before going on air here that there is a stick shift available, even though their initial press release doesn't mention a stick shift at all. There will be a stick shift, so you will have a manual transmission option in the hatchback, the SI, and the Type R. So those models are confirmed. They're just not out yet, and those will have a manual transmission option. And who was it? Dimitri was asking about pricing, which we kind of kicked off with here. I don't think it's going to be a big surprise if this comes in very similar to the outgoing model. Yes, they've added basic, more advanced safety stuff standard. They've also added like a 7-inch touchscreen standard, but the whole industry is moving that direction. Toyota offers this very similar in some of their products, which have been updated more recently than the Honda. So I think it's really Honda playing catch up here. So I can't imagine this is going to cost, like a base trim is probably not going to cost much more than $23,000, which is what the current base trim goes for. I mean, maybe they'll add $500 or something to it, but I don't think it's going to be, a game changer in terms of pricing. Also, the weight is pretty good on these because obviously the engine outputs aren't huge. You're looking at 158. Actually, while I'm talking here, let's roll some video. This is a press reel that they gave us, so it's all just beauty shots of the car. Maybe I'll pause it if we see something that we want to talk about. I guess we could talk about that nose. Let's hold off on that shot right there, and we'll come back to the nose after I talk about the engines. So there's two engines available. One is going to be a 2-liter naturally aspirated, and that one is 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque. But the curb weight of these vehicles are still pretty light. You're looking at 2,877 pounds for the LX. So under 3,000 pounds. That's pretty good for a modern 4-door sedan, and that is the sedan I'm talking about, not the hatchback. I don't think I have details. No, I don't have any details on the hatchbacks yet. And that also comes with 16-inch wheels, although they are Steelies with covers, which I can't believe here in 2021 we still have Steelies with covers on anything. The optional engine on the upper trims like the EX and the Touring, that's going to come with an 180 horsepower 4-cylinder with a turbocharger, so 1.5 liter. It's basically the same motor. Actually, both motors are basically the same as the outgoing motors in the 10th generation Civic. They've just been reworked a little bit. And so you're looking at 180 horsepower, 177 pound-feet of torque. The EX still weighs in. I mean, the EX is going to have a ton of features. Even the Touring, the Touring is 3,077 pounds. That's pretty light. Knight Rider is asking, is there any word on a PHEV or full EV version? No, not yet. I would be shocked if they don't have one coming, though. It seems like a lot of manufacturers these days are introducing the mainstream versions, and then like a few months later, they then announce the hybrids and electrics and all that. In fact, I would be shocked if we don't have a PHEV version of the Civic plant, because Honda, of course, announced they want to be electric only by 2040. And of course, that doesn't mean that in 2039 they all of a sudden flip a switch. No, we're talking like by time 2040 rolls around, the theory is that they're not going to have anything to discontinue because they will have switched everything over. Now, granted, we at least have one or two more generations of Civics before that becomes a concern. But I think that they need to start the transition. So obviously a hybrid PHEV is a natural transition point. Let's talk about that nose. Yeah, it brings it more into the family, as somebody had commented. Travis Zucker, you had commented. And yeah, I agree. It does look more like the Accord in the insides. I just don't think in red. Red is such a bold color, and it's really showing that contrast between that little teeny tiny little element under the logo there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on it. I think the overall design is attractive yet somewhat anonymous. But again, this is a Civic. It's not meant to be smack you in the face. Although, speaking of smack in the face, the video we have coming out this Saturday, assuming I get it done on time, otherwise it might be Sunday. It's been a really busy week. We upgraded our internet yesterday, and that just basically blew up all of yesterday because we had to change our SQL database server and all that stuff because we had it over a database. Anyway, here nor there. We're running a little behind. So at least by Sunday, we will have our review of the Honda Civic Type R limited edition. We got that car for one day. Honda called us up, said, we're sending it to the East Coast. Do you want it for one day before we ship it out? I'm like, sure. So they shipped it up to us, and we filmed it in one day. But that video should be this weekend. Obviously, that is an extreme version of the Civic, and there will be an extreme. I would love to see how this car is going to be made extreme looking. I don't know. It's just, I'm having trouble imagining a Type R out of this. Now, granted, the Type R will be out of the hatchback, not out of the sedan, but still, point still stands. Yeah, look at that. So a lot of Japanese cars are designed to specifically look the most attractive. I heard this from a designer a decade ago. I don't know if it still holds true, but at the time, the Japanese were focusing on like the most attractive corner viewing point for their cars was this rear 3/4 view. And I actually think that kind of holds true here. I think this is one of the better angles for this car. The blue lighting kind of throws things off a little bit, but you got a little detail on the trunk there. You got that little lip at the bottom with the red. Yeah, I think that actually is pretty good. And you can even see the crease line, like that belt line. It's kind of anonymous from the front, but from the side, that belt line really kind of, shows up a little bit more. I think that's pretty good. Okay. So Dashawn, sorry, with large capitals, I can't wait. Dashawn Yasaru, you're asking, what do I think about the Type R version of this gen? Are you referring to the 11th gen, or are you talking about the 10th gen? Since today we're talking about the 11th gen, you mean on the 10th gen? Because I love the Type R Civic in general. It's amazing. Almost bought one in 1998. Of course, back then it was called an Integra Type R. But I didn't. I bought a GSR instead. I talk a little bit about that in the video coming up this weekend. Yeah, the side views on some of these cars are not so great. Actually, yeah. Somebody's commenting about how it reminds the RSX from that angle. And the funny thing is, yeah, when I first saw this car, I didn't read the headline. I just saw the PR stuff come up in my feed, and I thought it was a photo of an RSX or an ILX or one of those. It looked like kind of like an Acura. Bonbon's asking well, okay, so Dashun, Yasuru, you're asking about the 11th gen. Well, we don't know what it looks like yet. So, I mean, I've seen the spy shots, but everything's so covered up. There's no way to really know what's going on yet. Yeah, Bonbon's asking pricing. No pricing yet. I would be shocked if it's a big difference. I would guess maybe a $500 increase to cover the digital stuff, but who knows? But yeah, Knight Rider, you're thinking that it might take sales away from the Accord with the larger wheelbase. And yeah, that is a possibility. But I think people are in general gravitating to higher content, smaller cars just in general. People who are still buying cars, that is. So yeah, I think that's probably the intent now. I mean, historically, I felt held back on the Civic because they didn't want it to step on the toes of the Accord. But now I don't think they have an option. The SUVs are taking over, and especially in the midsize category. So they need to sell. They just need to get on the ball and sell as many of these as possible, as quickly as possible. You might have noticed. Where was it? There was a drive mode indicator. Oh wait, I went too far back. Oh, we'll talk about the drive mode indicator in a moment. The screen. So the standard screen on all of these new Civics is a 7-inch digital display. This one looks like it's the 9-inch in the Touring. So the 9-inch is your upgrade for your screen. But it's kind of nice that every single Civic will have at least a 7-inch digital touchscreen in the middle. And it looks like the software is very similar to what's running on the current Odyssey. That is a system that I actually really like, which is kind of surprising, like just getting out of the 10th gen Type R, that's running the old system, and it's so slow, and it's just not good. And so, yes, thank God they are moving this one up better. And no, I do not like... do I like screens when they're kind of tacked on here, lifted up and tacked on? There's two things. I do like that you can rest your hand at the bottom of the screen because there's that little lip, and then you can hit things. It kind of helps with positioning. But in general, visually, it still looks like it was an afterthought. Like, hey, let's put a screen here. Somebody's saying the ILX should be based on this platform. Yes, I would expect so. The ILX is basically just a reskinned Civic, so I would definitely expect so. And I mean, even if they don't offer a plug-in hybrid version of the Civic, they will most likely have a version for Acura that is a plug-in. I don't know. It's all up in the air. You know, them having the clarity and having all these other different models, it's who knows what they're moving around to try to make these pieces all fit and not step on the toes of the other product lines. But Travis, the positive of having the screen up there is it puts it right in the eye line. And it is something that you kind of want to glance over. And if you'll notice, probably from the driver's seat, I won't know till I'm actually in the vehicle. But the typically, it looks like it's high, but when you're actually sitting up in the vehicle, typically the top of it will kind of align with the hood line, so it's not actually blocking visibility beyond the hood line of the vehicle anyway. It just kind of looks like it is because these shots are all so low, because of course, you know, you look more extreme when you're low. Yeah, I'm totally looking forward to an SI and an R variant. That's right. Let's see. Oh, and thanks, George, for joining us. George is one of my one of the guys I say, like. I mean, I like Hondas. One of my first cars was a Honda. You want to see a throwback photo? Is anybody ready for this? Well, before I show you the photo, I have a long history with Honda vehicles, having owned several. But George is my go-to if okay, what are people referring to certain body chat? You know, because there's a lot of lingo within subcultures of individual cars, and I test all cars, so I'm always a little concerned that I'm going to be out of step with what the current vernacular is. So for Honda, George is my guy. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to show you a photo of the first Honda Civic I owned, and I am in the photo. I think in this photo, just to set it up, I think I was 16 in this photo. It must be because there's no damage on the car, and I think I damaged the car immediately after getting it. It was a hand-me-down car from my parents, so this would put it probably 1988, 1989, roughly. The vehicle was a 78 Honda Civic. So just keep in mind, this vehicle, when I had it, wow, it's 89. So it was only 10 years old, the car. It just seemed so ancient even when I had it. Super tiny. Anyway, without further ado, here's the photo. Yes, that is me with, I don't know why I put that on my head. I never wore that on my head, actually. Apparently I was feeling pretty cool that day. I don't know. You'll note the wrestling shoes. I actually was in wrestling for a brief moment. It wasn't very long. Anyway, that's my 78 Honda Civic at my buddy's Chad Liggett's house. I went to Lake Washington High School at the time, over in Kirkland, Washington. Yeah, Kirkland Select. If you ever bought anything at Costco, you know Kirkland Select. It is actually named after the town right next to where the office is, and where I grew up, mostly, not entirely. Anyway, so yeah, going to the what is it? The Honda show, not the Honda show. What is it? The Japanese classic car show in Long Beach a few years ago, and seeing 78 Honda Civics in the classic section. You see them and they're fully restored, and people have like spent a ton of money on these cars, and you're looking at it going, I am officially old. Nothing says you're old like seeing the first car that you had in a classic car show. Never thought anybody would think twice about that car. Anyway, so let's go back to the 11th gen Civic here. So digital instrument cluster is going to be an option. It comes standard on the Touring. We're going to have a leather interior. Brief aside, if I could, well, no, I'll play this while I'm talking about it. But that first 78 Honda Civic that I had 3 accidents with it, one of which punched the nose in. To fix the nose, I lashed a rope around it. I was living in an apartment at the time. I lashed a rope around one of the supports of the apartment building I was in because it was a basement garage, and I floored it in reverse to pull the nose out, and it worked. Didn't look much better, but it did pull out the main support in the front of the hood so I could close the hood. Being young and stupid. Just like, why would I do that? I don't even know. Okay, engines. So I briefly talked about engines there early on. You, of course, have a 2-liter 4-cylinder naturally aspirated, which is the base engine. They are carryover motors, but they have been rehashed for this model, so more economical. Oh, let's talk economy with those engines. I do love that Honda gave us all this great rolling footage of these vehicles, so you don't have to just look at me the whole time. Where was that? Economy. Oh, there we go. Okay, so pretty good improvements in economy. And yeah, they are using a CVT transmission. So there will be 2 transmission options. The sedans, the sedans outside of the SI and Type R, if there is one. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a sedan. I think it'll be a hatchback. But anyway, so the hatchback, SI, and Type R will have a manual transmission, but all other versions have CVTs. But the MPGs are actually looking pretty good. Last year's LX model, for example, which I think is, yeah, the LX got 38 MPG on the highway, and the new one gets 40, so that's a +2. That's nice. The best economy is actually from the EX trim, and that has 42 miles to the gallon, which matches the 2021, but they did get 1 more MPG out of the around town stat, so that's good. So that's, so economically still looking pretty good. Is the 94 Acura Integra considered a classic? Yeah. Yeah. Although I have to say, so I bought a 98 Integra brand new from Acura. I had a really good year that year. I was fresh out of college working a marketing job. And So I bought an Integra, and I was looking at the Type R, which was also in the showroom, and I ended up buying the Integra instead. The one thing I have to say is that the 98 Integra GSR, I think, is the best looking, and that was the one that I bought. I didn't buy it at the time because of this, but in retrospect, it had the flush headlights with the front. Previous versions had the headlights slightly inset a little bit, and so I think the 98 actually had the best looking front because those were practically flush on the front, and also the GSR specifically got rid of the amber in the rear turn signals. They were all red, which looked just so much better in my opinion. Also, the 98 was the last year that you could get a really nice cypress green. The next year they changed the green, so the 98 I had, perfect. Do I still own that car? No. Do I wish I did? Yeah. That's what that is. I have very few cars that I've regretted selling because I've gone through so many cars in my life. But that is one that I do regret selling. It had a 1.8 motor. It was a variant on the one that came out of the Type R. It had, I think it was 8,100 RPM redline or something like that. It was super high. Anyway, it was always, yeah, so it was good. Miss it. Anyway, 11th gen. Let's add a little background music here. People have been asking, actually, let's turn off the background music because I want to talk about, we already talked about it briefly, but we should talk about the price. There is no price actually mentioned yet for anybody who came late. But I'm expecting it to be close to the 23,000. That was it, 23 grand? I think it was 23 grand was the original pricing on this thing. Yep. And you'll be able to get it in the sedan or hatch. I think the hatchbacks are usually more expensive off the top of my head. Anybody could, oh, you had a red light runner trash your 94 GSR Night Rider. I am so sorry to hear that. I think the 94 though had a slightly lighter green because they went to the darker green only for like 3 years of it, I think. I'm going off the top of my head here. I have a very rusty memory on that. That was a long time ago. But any GSR lost. The GSR was such a good car. It was one of those things where everything just kind of came together and the car was just for a front wheel drive time. Now keep in mind, in the late 90s, that was before you could get a WRX over here. That thing had like 189 horsepower, 180, somewhere around there. And that was a lot for a small car at the time. Like nothing was close. When I bought my GSR, I test drove the Miata, the 2.5 RS, and then bought the GSR. And over the years, I've now owned all of those. So apparently, and I test drove them all in Gran Turismo 1 on the PlayStation before I bought them. And then I drove them in real life. And then I bought one. And then over the years, I bought more. Yeah, George is saying mid-cycle refresh is always the money purchase with Hondas. That's why you waited till 2020 to get your SI. Cannot disagree with you. And I think that's actually true for most Japanese, if not all cars. If you look at Ford, obviously not a Japanese maker, they're having a lot of like teething issues with some of their first generation like trucks and SUVs and stuff. So like even like the Bronco, I don't know if I would get a first year Bronco. It just seems like, you know, especially because cars, they're way more complicated than they were 30, 40 years ago. These things are very complicated. And yes, they can update with software many of the issues that they do find, but not everything. And I think that's like, I feel like because the industry is moving so quickly ahead, we end up being a lot of beta testers for a lot of this stuff. And I think that's unfortunate. Oh, you can see the digital gauge cluster here. That is from the Touring model. That actually looks really nice. I like that. The big question is Honda typically doesn't give you a lot of customization. Oh, well, that just answers that question. Honda typically doesn't give you a lot of customization options when it comes to digital clusters. Typically, they give you one or two options. This one, it looks like it completely changes the display, which is kind of cool. I like that. Oh, and you can see it's showing Apple CarPlay on the left there because, of course, it comes with Apple CarPlay. Now, if you've been in an Odyssey over the last couple of years, this screen looks really familiar. It's basically the same interface. Obviously, it's updated with new stuff, and it looks like it's moving along pretty quickly here. I had no issues with the responsiveness of it in the Odyssey, so this is looking pretty good. When will this car come out? That's what we want to know. don't have a date yet. I would expect that they would be on showrooms based on the timing of showing this. I would expect you can probably get them in showrooms in August, September, maybe. Just guessing, pulling that out of my head. There's the interior. The interior is looking pretty good. That's looking like a nicely trimmed seat. Obviously, you can get a sunroof. It's a standard sunroof because it's a pretty small car. Don't really need panorama. Let's see here. So I'm going to pause this. So you can see they actually went with a traditional shifter. They don't have the push buttons out of the Acura. I'm okay with that here. I actually like the push buttons in the Acura. I don't always like push buttons for a transmission selection, but I do like the Acura version because you have different actions for the different uses. What I really hate, like the worst ever, was there was a Lincoln. I think it was the last Lincoln that I drove. It was like an MKZ or something. I don't know. It was forever ago. That car is actually the reason I don't really test Auto Park. I probably should be testing Auto Park now, but that one threw me. Like, I had to jam my foot on the brake within inches of a fence because it decided that it just wanted to drive straight into a fence. Good times. That car also had a huge problem in that right next to the stereo were lined all the PRND buttons, like right next to the stereo. My wife reached over she thought she was hitting power off. It was the P button. And I like smacked her hand away, like, oh, sorry. But, you know, and traditionally you're like, well, if you touch that while you're driving, that's not going to cause any problems, right? And obviously as testers, we don't test that because we assume that those things are taken care of. And if they're not, we don't really want to be the one who has destroyed the transmission of a test car. Well, apparently the Lincoln early production had issues with, if you did hit the park, it would engage park, which was awful. Also, placing it next to the stereo, absolutely stupid. So Acura doesn't do that with their push buttons. They put them low, and that you also have very distinct structure. Motions, you won't confuse that interface with anything else. Some of the other manufacturers, I think that just doing all push buttons is not the good way to do it. You need to have different action. Okay, so let's see. Let's watch some more of this. We have, of course, 2 USB. Actually, that's interesting. Those are old-style USB interfaces. They don't have USB-C in the main power interface up here. Obviously, one is for charging, one is for data, but they don't have USB-C there. I kind of thought everything would be USB-C in this new redesign. Maybe there's one in the elbow rest. Maybe they'll show that to us. I have not actually watched this all the way through yet. Bose audio in a Civic. Whoever thought we would see the day? And yeah, that is an option. Travis, you're asking about the Ridgeline Sport push-button shifter. That's the Acura shifter, which I like, so I have no issue with it. It actually causes... The thing that's nice about it is it removes clutter and it removes things you can run into, and it kind of, especially in a truck, and Ford really thought the next level on this one where you can, retract the gear shifter so it's completely flush. Having the push buttons, you're 90% of the way there without the mechanical concerns of a retracting gear selector. Wow, USB like that, huh? Okay. We talked a little bit about it earlier. They're doing those honeycomb vents. They say that it's a piece of metal, so that'll be nice. But again, I'm not. I think it'll be interesting to see it in person. But I'm thinking that let's pause it right there. That's a nice money shot of the interior. I don't quite recall. I believe on the current Civic, don't they have that cutout under, like right by the foot well, which is a second tier down, and then also has some extra USB sockets? I don't see that here. If I am remembering correctly. What you can see, though, is that they do have a wireless charger, of course, there. No word on wireless CarPlay, though, whether they have that or not. So I'm not really sure about that. Let's go ahead and start some music here. It's a little background music. Okay, let's move on. Obviously, dual zone. Those little knobs sticking out just seem like... Doesn't that just kind of seem like... They looked at it and they said, we didn't add anything that lets you change the direction of the vents. Let's add some It doesn't seem very cohesive. Yeah, Knight Rider USB-C is more expensive than USB-A, but still, 2022, it should have it. Because, of course, USB-C can also output more voltage, which is useful. But, yeah. Obviously, we have the hydraulic parking brake and drive modes. Now, let me just pull up drive modes here. We had some info on that. It's nice they gave me like this complete breakdown of all the details of the car, but it's a lot of information to wade through. Where was that? Drive modes. Oh yeah, so the 3 drive modes are Econ, Normal, and Sport, just as normal. Those are only available on the Sport and the Touring. The EX and the LX do not get the 3-way drive system. Also, the Sport and the Touring do get the paddle shifters, which the other trims do not have paddle shifters. It's also interesting that so the LX, being the cheapie, has 16-inch steel with covers, but all other trims do come with alloys. 18-inch on the Sport and the Touring, and 17-inch on the EX. 18-inch on a Civic. I'm just constantly, it blows my mind how big wheels are getting, and they do look great. I mean, we're starting to look like the concept cars of yesterday, you know, because concept cars always have big wheels because they fill the wheel well nicely. Blind spot warning, nothing fancy there. That's the traditional one that pretty much everybody has now. I do prefer to have the indicator on the inside of the cabin because, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, if it is super rainy out and super windy, it's hard to see out of the corner of your eye that tiny little light that is getting covered with water and snow. I much prefer to have it on the A-pillar where they put the Bose speaker, or right behind that on that little A-pillar inset. But they did not, probably for cost reasons, because I think the other ones are like an available part. There's a speaker. I'm imagining that with foot scuffs all over it already. I do kind of like that. They did not go with piano black. They do have a pattern in there. I think that's good. I'm sure they'll have some trim option that does have piano black, though. Everybody still does piano black for some bizarre reason. I think it looks good at the dealer, and then like 5 minutes later, you've already scratched it. Ventilated, well, not ventilated, but they're, the seats have holes. Nice stitching. Yes, nice detail stitching. Actually, I mean, those seats do look really good. The back seats look like benches. Those do not look real good. But you don't buy a Civic if you're carrying people around all the time. At least not usually. Okay, the back seats, how flat do they fold? That's pretty good. That's a good enough pass-through. That's pretty usable. If you need better, just get the hatchback. Oh, if I could just talk more about my GSR. That thing, I moved, I think, 2 or 3 times when I had that GSR. Oh, wait, no. Did I? No, that was the year I moved into a house. Still own that house. Perforated. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. I'm live, you know. What are you going to do? But the year I moved into the house, I had the GSR, and we use that like a truck. I mean, like, we just load that thing up with stuff, which kind of makes me prefer a hatchback to a sedan. So it's nice that there will be a hatchback, of course. Oh, they have the little easy pulls up on top there, you can see. So from the back, you can just pull it and the seat goes down. I think that's on the current model anyway. That's not a big change, but still happy to see those. Wow, lots of shots of the trunk. Props to Honda for giving us all the detail stuff here. But are they going to show us what's under that floor? No. Okay, so it does get their safety system. You can see that there's a camera up there and some sensors. They have given more standard safety features. Where is that? Driver focus technology, exterior. There's so many marketing words in here that don't say anything. Fun and comfort, yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, forget that. Anyway, they've increased the Apple stuff. Wireless Apple CarPlay is available. Why aren't they disclosing which trim? Because it comes standard on all trim levels. So they're not talking about it because it's on all trims. That is on this grid here, which I've now thrown on the ground and completely messed up. Where is that? Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is standard on all 4 trim levels. So, yeah, so you don't have to worry about optioning it. You get it. which is good. The industry is heading that way, and I'm very happy to see that here as well. I think that's part of their decision to go with the 7-inch. Tech is driving sales in some of these cars, and they went all in on that. That's actually a pretty good looking car from that light and that position. Actually, and this isn't a compliment to the Honda, it kind of reminds me of a BMW 3 Series from the side there. Sorry, not a compliment to the Honda, because the 3 Series is absolutely boring on that side profile. But yeah, that's not too bad. I think I can get used to that nose too. Looking forward to the Type R version, of course. I wonder if does anybody have any opinion? Are they going to do a sedan or a hatchback? I would assume they're doing a hatchback, but you never know. We got a sedan Subaru STI, so who knows at all? Sometimes you just raise your hand and you're like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, George, you're saying hopefully wireless CarPlay. I would think that probably wireless is only on the touring model, if they even offer it. What was it? I was just in a car that I felt should have had it, but didn't. It's a big muddle, all the cars that I've had. Oh, it was the Mercedes E-Class. I just had the Mercedes E-Class, the E350. And that one had a charging, a charging pad, but didn't have wireless CarPlay. But it's Mercedes. They get you on all the options on that one. Steve, hey, welcome, buddy. Have we talked about how much it looks like a CT5? No, but we did talk about how much it looks like a BMW 3 Series from the side. It's anonymous. I think that's the whole point here. It's a very anonymous looking vehicle from the side. Let's see if I can nail a side shot here. Oh, there we go. Oh, I just had it. Oh, I need to be less excited with my clicking. There we go. Okay. So you can see behind the front wheel. Yeah, that's pretty anonymous looking. I think pretty much everything kind of looks like that. Oh, hey, Kiss and Travis. Yeah, we were talking. This is turned somewhat inadvertently into a love fest for the Acura Integra GSR, because that car is amazing. Actually, let me pull up an image for those who are unfamiliar with the exact car that we're talking about, because at this point I feel like we're a bunch of older guys railing on about our cars of yesterday. I mean, that is, I think, what's happening here, for better or for worse. I do have a shot of it here. Yeah, let me throw that up into my media player. And I will. But first, for those who came late, check out the glory of 16-year-old me with my 1998 Honda Civic. Okay, and then now I'm going to put in the Honda, the Integra GSR. So this is that is actually a 98. You can tell it's a 98 because the headlights are almost flush with their the holes that they're inset into. That is an amazing driving car. If you ever have a chance to drive one, I do recommend it. It is amazing. Yeah, just every once in a while, the stars align and Honda gets it right. And that was one of those cars. This was not the color of car I had. I had a Cypress green, but with a brown leather interior. But that was a great car. I did a ton of mods to it. Let's see, I had, what did I do? RS Akamoto intake, Greddy Power Extreme exhaust, H&R springs, lowered it. I think it was about an inch. And then I also had DC braces and OZ-F1 gunmetal wheels. It was an amazing car. And I have not a single picture of it. Okay, there was one photo that did exist. I don't know where it is now. For some reason, it was in the hole. I've been a photographer my whole life. I started when I was a child doing photography. But for some reason, within this 10-year window of my marketing life, I did not, in my previous life in tech marketing, I just took no photos outside of work. I just didn't. And so I had no photos of that, which I'm really disappointed too. Anyway, yeah, so I think we're probably going to wrap this one up. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them into chat. I will answer what I can if there's any last-minute ones here. But yeah, totally looking forward to this new Honda Civic. It's looking really good, I think, overall. Really want to see that hatch. Really want to see the Type R. Those will be coming in time. I'm sure we'll see a PHEV version or at least a hybrid version. This weekend on our main channel, we have a full review of the 10th generation Honda Civic Type R, the limited edition, the bright yellow one, super yellow. It is so yellow. It's Phoenix yellow, which I disagree with, by the way. I think that any special editions have to be championship white for Hondas. That's their color. That's what they should do. But the yellow is cool too. There was actually a GSR Type R. There was an Integra Type R that was the same Phoenix yellow. So we have a video of that in our review coming out this weekend on our main channel. So be sure to check out our main channel. Where is it? Boom, right there. That's our main channel. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. This is our second live channel. We're just basically throwing stuff against the wall and see what sticks. Obviously, we'll have shows like this. I have another episode where I actually mounted the whole live equipment setup inside my 4Runner, and we drove around for a little bit and chatted. Gonna probably have to wait for our COVID restrictions to really reduce here so that I basically can put a crew in the car with me. We're not quite there yet. I have had my first shot, which I'm stoked with. I get my second shot in a couple weeks. The 5G Wi-Fi is receiving just great in my head now, so yay for that. Let's see, any other questions? The Integra was not good in stop and go from Daytona, though Spartanburg. Oh, you're talking about Travis. You're talking about like the real-time team. And yeah, Knight Rider. I don't know Phoenix Yellow. I honestly think that all Type Rs should just be white. It's their color. And with that, I am going to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody, for joining me on this Friday. I think the rain has finally stopped, so I can go out now and film the car that I was scheduled to film today, which is the... What car am I filming today? I am filming the... where's my calendar? You probably want to know what I'm filming, right? Even though I'm trying to wrap this up, but I don't mind sitting and chatting. I am filming the Hyundai Santa Fe Calligraphy Edition. How about that? Also coming up, I have the ID4. I have another look at the CX-30. I'm filming the 2021 Trailblazer all-wheel drive. And then in June, first week of June, I am filming the Sorento X-Line. Now, we are filming a ton of cars, and we are still trying to stick to a one-car-a-week schedule, at least until the fall, because I have a ton of corporate work that I'm kind of wrapping up. I've done corporate work for years in addition to driving sports TV, and I'm trying to wrap up the corporate work. I do appreciate my corporate clients, but there's just this big project that I'm trying to get done by August. Once that's done, then we'll have more episodes than probably one a week, but we're probably going to stick to one a week on our main channel through the summer. So I'm jamming in a whole bunch of shoots before I have to take off for a few weeks to go do a corporate shoot. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Great to see you, and we'll catch you next time right here. Hit that subscribe button. You know you want to. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. We'll see you again next week.